Hello everyone, I'm Paul and this is problem 3699, number of zigzag arrays 1. This is a hard one that might become quite complex, so let's see how to solve it step by step. We are given three integers, n, l, and r, so let's say that we are given this input. Our job is to get the total number of valid zigzag arrays, and here is the requirement for these zigzag arrays. They have a length of n, so in this case we are building arrays of length 3. Each element lies in the range from left to right. Here left is 4, right is 5, so we can use values 4 and 5. No two adjacent elements are equal. For example, we can't use 4, 4 here. We can't repeat the same element, and no three consecutive elements are strictly increasing or strictly decreasing. Let's say for a moment that here we have 6. We can't do 4, 5, 6 or 6, 5, 4. Okay, so with this in mind, what is a valid zigzag array? Well, we can use 4, 5, and 4, or 5, 4, and 5. Given that these are the only valid zigzag arrays that we can build of length 3 with values in the range from 4 to 5, here we have the only two valid arrays, so the result is 2. And given that the answer may be large, we need to return it modulo 10 to the power of 9 plus 7. So what is a valid zigzag array? Well, it's basically an array that either goes up, down, and so on, or down, up, down, and so on. Now let's say that we are trying to build a valid array in this case. We start from an empty array, and we have two choices basically. We can start with either 4 or 5. Let's say that we start with 4. Next, technically we have two choices. We can go either up or down. If we decide to go up, next we continue with 5. And here we can't go down because the smallest value in the range that we are given is 4, and we already have 4 here. If we start with 5, we can't go up because 5 is the maximum number in this range, but we can go down because we have a number smaller than 5, we have 4. So this is the entire tree. If we check level n, meaning 3, here we have our two valid zigzag arrays, and that's why the result in this case is 2. In case you didn't notice, here we are solving small subproblems and using those results to solve larger subproblems. This is basically the definition of dynamic programming. Now, instead of building this entire tree, we will build only half of the tree and multiply the result by 2. This will be more efficient. So here we have 3 levels. Let's say that this level corresponds to index 0, this corresponds to index 1, and this corresponds to index 2. We will use add indices for zigzag arrays that end up going up, and even indices for arrays that end up going down. So, for example, here we have an add index 1. So we don't care about scenarios in which we end up going down. We can remove this and remove this. And if we remove this, we are removing this corresponding subtree. Here we have an even index, so we don't care about scenarios in which we end up going up. We can remove this, and that's it. Now we can get the result of this tree, this half of the tree, which is 1. Here we only have one valid zigzag array, and multiply 1 by 2. This is equal to 2, so this would be the final result. And here we are using add indices to go up and even indices to go down. But we could do exactly the opposite because these are zigzag arrays, so it's basically the same. So considering this, let's see how to build half of the tree. Now let's say that we have this input. The length of the zigzag arrays that we are building is 3, and the range goes from 4 to 6, so we can use the values 4, 5, and 6. First, we are building a DP grid with different array sizes as rows and different ending values as columns. Remember that we can use only the values in the range that we are given, and here for example we have 0 and 4 in parentheses. That's because we are normalizing the values in this range in order to be able to iterate this DP easily. For example, here index 0 technically belongs to value number 4 in the given range. Index 1 belongs to 5 and index 2 belongs to the last value of the range. How do we get these indices 0, 1, and 2? Well, we can do right minus left, 6 minus 4 is equal to 2, and now we can use values from 0 to the result for columns. And just to be clear, we don't care about the actual values of the range that we are given. We only care about the relationship between the values. That's why we can normalize this. And just to be clear regarding rows, here we have the indices in this DP grid, and each index corresponds to a size of the index plus 1. For example, index 0 corresponds to an array with size 1. Index 2 corresponds to an array with 2 elements, and index 2 corresponds to an array with 3 elements. Now, dpij is the number of valid ZigZag arrays that we can build of the current size using the current value as the ending value. So, how many ZigZag arrays can we build of size 1 using 4 as the ending value? Well, we can build only one, an array with 4, right? So here we put 1. Now we are here. How many valid ZigZag arrays can we build with a length of 1 ending with 5? Well, only 1. And similarly here, the result is 1. Now we are looking at this row. The current index is 1 and 1 is an odd number. So here we go up. How many valid ZigZag arrays of length 2 ending with 4 can we build here? Well, 4 is the smallest number in this range. So if we are trying to go up, we should end up with a number that's larger than the previous number. And there's no number smaller than 4, so here we just keep 0. Now we are here. How many valid ZigZag arrays of length 2 can we build ending with 5 that end up going up? Well, we can take this value. Remember that this corresponds to an array of length 1 with 4. So we are taking this number, which is smaller than the current value, and well, we can do for 5. This would be a valid array that ends up going up, which is right because we are standing at row number 1. So here we can put a 1. Now we are here. How many valid ZigZag arrays of length 2 ending with 6 and going up can we build? Well, we need to build an array with 2 elements ending with 6. What are the choices here? Well, the key is in these cells. Remember that this corresponds to an array with 4 and this corresponds to an array with 5. Here we are standing at 6, and both of these numbers are smaller than 6, so we can build an array with 4, 6 and another one with 5, 6. Both of these arrays are valid, so here we can put a 2. And in case you didn't notice, what we are doing here is taking the sum of the values in the previous row and all the columns up to the previous column. 1 plus 1 is 2, and that's why here we have a 2. Now we are looking at this row, which is number 2, and this is an even number, so we have to end up going down. First, we are here, so we are looking for arrays of length 3, where the last value is 4, and we end up going down. If we end up going down, this means that the previous number has to be larger than 4. So where do we have the result of these arrays of length 2 where this number is larger than this one? Well, we can take the sum of all the values in the previous row and all the columns from the next column up to the last one. 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, and that's why here we put a 3. And just to be clear, remember that this 1 corresponds to this array and this 2 corresponds to these 2 arrays. So what we can do here is add a 4 to each of these arrays, and now we have 3 valid arrays that have a decreasing direction. Okay, that's why here we put a 3. Next we are here, so we take the sum of all the elements from here to the right. We only have a 2, so here we put a 2. Finally, we are here, so we take the sum of all the elements from here to the right, and this is out of bounds, so here we keep 0. So where do we have the maximum number of zigzag arrays of length n using the values in the range that we are given? Well, we have it right here. This corresponds to length 3, which is n, and the sum of all the values in this row is the result. 3 plus 2 is equal to 5, so the result here is 5. Now remember that this number is the result of only one branch of the tree. So if we want to get the full result, we should multiply this by 2. This is equal to 10, so the final result is 10. Now let's step back for a moment. Let's say that we are standing at index 1, which is an add index. So here the result is 0, here it's 1, and here it's 1 plus 1, meaning 2. Remember that this could be a very large grid with a lot of columns, so it's not very efficient to iterate all the previous column to get the corresponding sum for each cell. So how can we make this more efficient? Well, the key is that we can use prefix sum. So let's see how this works with this row. First we are here, so we have a variable previous which is initially 0, which means that the previous accumulated sum before this column is 0. Now we say that dpij is equal to previous, so this stays at 0, and we need to update previous with what we have here plus the value in the previous row same column. 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Next we are here, so we update this value with what we have in previous, so this is 1. And we need to update previous with previous plus the value in the current column previous row. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, so this is 2. Next we are here, so we replace this with previous, this is 2, and now we update this with 2 plus 1, so this is 3. And by doing this we avoid the repeated work. Now we can iterate columns and carry the accumulated previous results. Overall time and space complexity for this approach is big of n times m, where m is the range that we are given. Why? Well, because we have to iterate and build this DP grid. So with this in mind, let's go with the code. First we have a mod value, 10 to the power of 9 plus 7, and we need to normalize the range. So we can say right minus equal left, and now we can build the DP, which is an array, and here we use an array with 0 times the columns right plus 1 for every index in range the amount of rows, which is n. And now we can fill the row number 0, so for j in range the amount of columns r plus 1. Here we say dp at row 0 column j is equal to 1 initially. Now for I in range from 1 to n, we are skipping row number 0. We can say that previous is initially 0. Remember that this is the prefix sum. And if the current row modulo 2, this is the index actually. If the index of the current row modulo 2 is equal to 1, meaning it's an odd index, then we say for j in range r plus 1 dp ij is equal to what we have in previous, and now we need to update previous with previous plus dp at the previous row same column. And remember that we have a mod value, so we can use it here. This is modulo mod, and that's it. Else, meaning if the current index is even, we do the opposite. Here we get the suffix sum. So for j in range, we start from r up to -1 in steps of -1. We say that dp ij is equal to previous, and previous is now previous plus dpi minus 1j. And we have a mod value, so we use it here. And that's it. Finally, down here, we can return the sum of the last row. So we return the sum of dp minus 1, and we need to multiply this by 2 in order to get the full tree modulo mod. So let's submit this and see if it works. As you can see, this works and it's very efficient, and you can make it even more efficient in terms of space complexity by using a roll-up dynamic programming approach. But I think that this is intuitive enough for this problem, so if you found this useful, please drop a like, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.